Momentous day, true milestone for our industry, and I'll get into that in a little bit. You know, we've come a long way. It was back in July of 2012 when a Presidential Advisory Council first reported on the viability, the technical viability of a shared spectrum regime. And really just think about that. In that intervening 7 years, we've had 37x growth on mobile networks, 37x, 68% compound annual growth rates. It's a global number. And so while it's great that we've had that kind of mobile growth, it does put strain on the available spectrum that we have. We can't keep doing things the way we always have. And that's the real promise of OnGo. It's not just CBRS spectrum between 3.55 and 3.7, the 150 megahertz of CBRS that OnGo promises. It's a shared spectrum regime that takes advantage of the benefits of both unlicensed spectrum and licensed spectrum. Think about that. Unlicensed spectrum has the benefits of very efficient traffic utilization and capacity usage. Licensed spectrum is deterministic in its QS capabilities. If you could combine those, you'd really have the best of both worlds. That's exactly, precisely what OnGo does. And not just for CBRS, but for potentially for other spectrum definition into the future. The world is watching us. We've done a lot of trials to deliver on that outcome, but it's very important for the United States and for the world to have more efficient use of the spectrum we have. We talk about 5G, it gets a lot of hype, it should, generates a lot of network capacity and lower latency, next generation applications, but it's just as important that we have that type of revolution in terms of the efficient use of spectrum, and that's exactly what OnGo promises to deliver. What are some of the use cases we talk about at Charter? Almost 2 years ago to the day, I was at Mobile World Congress Americas at a CBRS Alliance event, and we were talking about how Charter planned to use CBRS for a couple of different use cases. One was for rural broadband, or for using fixed wireless and CBRS for rural broadband. We've done that in multiple proof of concepts, multiple markets around the country, different clutter and terrain environments, different climate conditions. Just over the last couple of months, we've launched our first commercial trial of that solution in Davidson County, North Carolina, where we are using CBRS, very similar to how AT&T just described their implementation, to extend into rural territories and offer broadband service targeting 25 by 3 minimum, but certainly we'll go further out than that at lower speeds as well. We think it's an ideal use for CBRS, for OnGo, and we're pleased with the initial results. The other major use case for us is to look at small cell mobility offload. So Charter, as of middle of 2018, launched a mobility service. It's a Wi-Fi first MVNO, mobile virtual network operator relationship that we have with Verizon. So it's small cell first in that we look to offload that traffic onto our Wi-Fi infrastructure when we can. Wi-Fi has a lot of benefits. We're huge advocates of Wi-Fi. We certainly participate with Wi-Fi 6 and 6 gigahertz, and that's important to us. However, we also look at how we can extend and offer small cell first MVNO. So going from Wi-Fi first MVNO to small cell first MVNO, and truly looking at how we can use CBRS or OnGo spectrum to offer license capability with the densification of small cell build-out. So we've done a lot of trials there. Started in 2017, we did some massive trials in Tampa, Florida, and in Charlotte, North Carolina, to learn the basics of how CBRS spectrum would work. Since then, really at the end of 2018 and all through this year, we've also done trials in New York and LA, and of course we have a constant test bed in Denver, Colorado. Those particular trials are sort of the next phase of our evolution of how we think about it. So in addition to CBRS small cells, that's really a hand-in-glove fit for cable plant that we have, we need to make sure that we have a robust mobile device ecosystem that supports CBRS in the phone itself, that has something called dual SIM, dual subscription, which allows us, Charter, to connect our small cell infrastructure on one SIM on the device while simultaneously having the existing SIM that connects to the MVNO macro. So we've done a lot of trials there, testing the efficacy of the seamless switching between that small cell domain and that macro domain, and we're very pleased with those results. What are we doing in the future? What other use cases are enabled by OnGo? We certainly think and are excited about how private LTE, neutral host, industrial IoT, all those use cases can come together. We view that as an exciting promise of the capability so that it's not just spectrum that's for the mobile carriers or for large service providers, but can be used by enterprise customers as well. And so without going into too much more detail on that, although I'm happy to answer questions afterwards, I just want to thank the people in this room, really thank the overall industry ecosystem for coming together to bring OnGo into a reality, most of which are people in this room. I want to especially call out Commissioner O'Reilly. I think he has been more than just a regulator here. He's been a true industry thought leader on bringing this to fruition. And I think we ought to give him a round of applause right now for bringing it home. I did not get paid, and there was no sort of in-kind contribution for that comment. That said, I just want to highlight this is truly an industry milestone. I want to make sure we all realize that. We're going to the commercialization of an experimental concept that not just this country, but the whole world will be watching, right? To sort of make sure that we have the efficient utilization of spectrum resources as we get into the world of 5G is extremely important. And so, while, again, 5G is an important technology standard and we need to embrace it in all the use cases it develops, we also need to truly embrace this shared spectrum regime that OnGo represents. Thanks again, I appreciate it.